Hey! So, on Tuesday I showed you how to use this tool called the healing brush. And then I said I could teach you how to compare it with the clone tool. So, hold your mouse down on the clone tool and it's the top option. And basically it does roughly the same thing, but instead of blending your sample with what you're covering, it replaces what you're covering exactly with what you sampled. If I chose over here, it wouldn't blend, it would copy it exactly. So, it's got its own advantages and disadvantages. Where it copies exactly, it can look harsh and you need to blend it in with something else, which is what I was talking about with using the clone tool and the healing tool together. But today I'm showing you just the clone tool, maybe blending out slightly with this, but the tutorial's on the clone tool. So I thought this picture was quite good. From my travels in New York, you might have seen it in my apology video. And I decided that this whole bit in the corner was distracting. This is the easiest cloning I'll show you because the background I'm covering it with is very plain and simple. So it's just blue and it's got a slight gradient, and I want to try and keep that. I don't want it to look completely flat, but it's very easy to take out. So I'll duplicate my layer and I'm going to sample from here. So remember, hold Alt down and then left click on your mouse and just paint over what you want to replace. And you're going to have to resample quite often because say I sampled from down here and then I painted on here, it would be too dark. So just sample from near where you want and you should get the shade that's appropriate. And it's already looking better. But I also want to get rid of this, and I want to get rid of this building that's slightly imposing on the image. So I'll just use the same technique. And I know it's a bit patchy at the moment, and that's what I'm going to use the heal tool for. So this bit looks fairly good. This section, not too patchy. But at the top where we've got light and dark, it's gone a bit awry. So what I'll do is I'll take the healing brush so I can sample still. And just sample from this mid-tone area. And just blend the bit that I've cloned out and the original sky. Just do that. For a quick go, got rid of all of that distraction, and then the picture looks a lot nicer, if you agree with me. I think it does. And that's really simple on the plain background, but you can use cloning with more difficult subjects and more complicated stuff. So I'll show you with this picture. So I got this picture of a lion on a lion walk, so obviously there were handlers helping, and that's where this meat is from. However, where it's looking at the meat and it's obvious that the meat isn't usually there, you can tell that it's from, well, that it's not from the wild. So I wanted to show you that you could take the meat out even with this complicated background and against the harsh line of the tree. So I would use quite a big brush so that this is quite random still, and obviously the clone tool, I'll duplicate my layer so I don't mess the background layer up. And I think I'll go for a flow of about 50. So what that's going to do, what I clone is going to spread out more. So instead of being a harsh circle, it's going to blend the lines more, but it will still be an exact copy of what I'm sampling from. So if I start here, I'll start in a lighter green. You see how it fades it in. It's like a soft brush basically. So for the moment I'm just getting rid of the meat and then I'll blend it better. So that is the meat gone, but obviously this bit near his nose is still, that it's obvious that I've moved it around. So I'm just going to do a smaller samples and try and get rid of that look. And because I'm on the flow, his whiskers won't get covered straight away. I'll turn my flow down a bit more. Then hopefully we can retain all the information. And the flow works better on bigger brushes. As you can see, he's kept his whiskers and taken out the meat completely. And it's not too obvious. Obviously there are some repetitions and you could take stuff from down here instead and replace it, but there is no meat in the shot and there is a picture of a lion, so it's pretty good. And that's on quite a complicated background, and obviously to make it look more realistic you take more time over it and you sample from areas back here and mix it with areas from the front, and eventually it will look realistic. But you don't have to just use nature pictures and travel pictures. Stuff with one subject and a background that you're fixing. I like to use it in my fashion shots and in headshots and basically any portrait. You can use it on skin, on hair, on the transition between the model and the background, anything. So the next two pictures I'll show you, I'm using it on portraits. So this is a headshot I did of someone, and lovely, lighting's good, background's flat, everything's fine, apart from there's slight breaks in her hair, and in a headshot it's fine, that's how hair happens. But say I wanted to change it into a beauty shot or a fashion shot, these breaks in her hair wouldn't be acceptable. And one way of covering them is using the clone tool. And you have to be quite careful, and things do go wrong and you have to undo them, but it's what they use. So I'm going to duplicate my layer so I don't ruin my background layer. And on the clone tool you can have an option of opacity. And if I'm working with hair, I don't want it to be 100%. So say I had a flow of 100 and an opacity of 100. This new bit will be too harsh and it will cover bits that I really wanted in hair, like that highlight. So I'm going to set my opacity to about 40. I'm going to set it to 40 and I'm going to set my flow to around 50. And this gives a nice soft transition when you're adding more bits into the hair, and it will make it look like you haven't just added a random strip. So first of all we're going to get rid of or lessen this darker patch in our hair. So if we sample from this light brown, because we don't want the highlight to be extended because then it will be too light. So we'll use this mid-tone brown to sample from, and we'll just take sections of the hair and just paint it into that gap. And you can, for the smaller sections here, you can make your brush smaller, and look, the section is already nearly completely gone. And for these smaller sections you just need a smaller brush, and make sure you're sampling from a colour of the hair that you want in the gap. And I'll just do this bit for you to blend it in more. And look, that gap is completely gone. And obviously I'd carry it down to this bit and remove some of these gaps to take her shirt colour out of her hair. But that's pretty much it for fashion hair, which is quite cool that you use such a staple tool in something as complicated as that. The last one I'm going to show you is still on a Bushi shot. You saw it briefly last month, but it uses the pen tool, which is a selection tool, and it takes some time getting used to it. Now, if you already know the pen tool and you didn't think, oh, I could use the clone tool with this, then this is what this last one's for. Or you can watch me use the pen tool and, I don't know, you might be able to pick it up. It's fairly simple, but to get smooth lines and stuff, it takes time. Next week, I'm going to go over selection tools, so I'm going to go over just these general ones and the lasso tool here. And I'm going to go over the pen tool and magic wand and quick selection. So you can always watch next week's and then come back to this last portrait if you think, oh, now I know how to use it, I can look at this again. Or you can just dive straight into the deep end. So this is the last portrait. So this picture's already been edited. You can have a look at the Facebook link or the website down below in the description if you want to have a look at the portrait in its series. But this was meant to be quite natural, but I'm just using this as an example if you ever wanted to use it. So most of the portrait's fine, but here on the arm, everyone gets it. There's like little peach fuzz, and it's fine, but in a lot of fashion shots they like to remove it. So if I just use a square rectangle, the square selection tool, I'm just going to select a bit of the arm, use Command C and Command V to copy and paste it, so it's just on a layer of its own. And then I'm going to use this dreaded pen tool that I talked about and just run it along the edge of her arm. Now all you have to do is press and hold whilst you drag. And it's a fairly simple tool, and you can move it with the arrow keys if you don't like where it was, but to get a smooth line it takes quite a while. And sometimes, I've used this tool for ages, I don't get a smooth line. You have to redo it or move the points. So I wouldn't be too harsh on yourself if you don't get a good line the first time. This is just a quick thing to show you, so I haven't even done it that well. Okay, so at the moment we've got this inside of the marching ants selected, but this part of the arm is fine, it's the outside of the arm. So we need to inverse the selection. Now you can do it at the top here, or you can just use the shortcut that they show you at the side. And we go to our clone tool, and now we've got everything outside the marching ants selected. And one part of that is the outside of the arm. So when you make your selection, make sure that it's one side of the peach fuzz. You don't want the peach fuzz included. And then all you have to do is sample from the hair, my opacity at like 100 and my flow at about 70 because we still want it to be soft. And we just take a sample from the hair and paint in. And then once you make sure you've got it all, you do Command D or deselect up here. You can deselect here. And then you can see the difference there, to be honest. But all that peach fuzz is completely gone. She's got a smooth arm. So you can see I've taken it all out. And that's commonly used for like magazine work or fashion work, where they just want the skin and the lines to be perfect and blemish free. But obviously everyone has peach fuzz, so I kept it in for this more natural portrait. But it's an option that you can take, and now you know how to do it. So next week I'll be talking about all these selection tools and when you use them and when you can use them together and stuff like that. Thank you for watching, and subscribe if you like it or you want to know when my next video's up, even though there's kind of a schedule, but you never know, I might upload some new thing. But yeah, thumbs up if you like, and thank you for watching. Bye!